Welcome to the Essentially You podcast. Angela, honey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so well, Marissa. How are you? It's lovely to be here.
Oh, I am doing wonderful. And I'm excited because we're going to be talking about an area of women's health that I don't talk a lot about, which is more about like high performance health. It's kind of optimizing health. And because we talk a lot about hormones on the show, we talk a lot about metabolic health on the show, but like how women can really up level their health in a really incredible way is what I'm super stoked to talk about. But before we get into all of the nuts and bolts of everything that you are offering, I would love for you to just share a little bit about your journey and kind of what was the impetus for you or that defining moment for you where you're like, this is the direction I want to go. This is how I want to serve people in the world, women in the world.
Yeah, I'd love to share that. Thank you. Well, I was practicing as a lawyer for many years, as a corporate lawyer in London, and literally just kind of gunning it and pretty much having to behave like a man, right? I think that was the common thing in corporate law in London to get ahead, and just sacrificing sleep, just completely ignored all my hormones until I found out I was diagnosed with insulin resistance and PCOS in my late 20s. And then I kind of had surgery, got that fixed. I made partnership. I was 8 months pregnant with my first child and just kept kind of going at it until eventually I hit burnout. And I suffered really badly with postnatal depression with my first child, and then it got worse with my second and my third child. And by the time I had my third, I was just kind of so sort of suicidal in my thoughts and my outlook. And I was really burnt out from pulling off so many all-nighters and long weekends of work. And I ended up winding up in hospital, with what was suspected lung cancer at the time, but it turned out to be double pneumonia, both viral and bacterial in both lungs. And I was neutropenic. It was this crazy situation where, I'd been trying to run away from myself for so long. And then here I was in hospital with just myself. And I think that sometimes, I know Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this, when you can have really high fevers, it gives way to a kind of lucidity. After having the PCOS and endometriosis, I'd begun looking more at my nutrition and my fitness, hadn't really tackled my spiritual health. And it was just a really defining moment in my life for me, because I realized, like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I've got these 3 young children. Here I am kind of battling for my life with really bad pneumonia. And this is almost what I've been wishing for and attracting. But these guys need their mum. I want to see them grow up. And it was just a really, really pivotal moment. And the crazy thing is, when I made that decision that I just wanted to get really, really well and get back on track, my blood work started to change. And, my white blood cell came back up. And I think it's that whole mind-body connection. And when I came out, it was quite a journey of recovery. But I just decided I want to get really, really healthy in mind, body, and spirit. And then it became a bit more of a mission around, well, I've kind of had high performance on its own, then I've left law and now I've got really healthy, but how can you combine the two? And that's when I realized that, optimizing your health is really the foundation of sustained high performance. And that's where my kind of mission began, really, to help women embrace their female physiology as part of this, but to understand that, as Dr. Stacey Sims says, we are not small men, and to try and do things differently and help women have it all, really, have the high performance and the healthy lifestyle and the family.
I want to dissect this a little bit because I am a mom to a brand new little boy. He's 16 months old. And
Oh.
I'm not going to lie, girl. There ain't no high performance happening in this house. Let me tell you, as a CEO of this company and being like the best kind of mama I could be, like I got 15 minutes in today before I had this interview with you. And so I would love to dissect, endometriosis, autoimmune condition, right? PCOS, insulin resistance. We talk a lot about these things on the show. Talk to me a little bit about that journey of recovery, of kind of juggling the 3 kids, probably, what were they, under 5, under 10?
Yeah, I had 3, 4 and under, yeah.
And what that recovery kind of looked like. I want to just unpeel the layer a little bit because I know a lot of women are listening right now and they're thinking, oh my God, I'm literally where she's at right now. And I've got young kids, or I've got teenagers, and I've got a full-time job, and I'm feeling like poop, basically. In this show, we really dissect these types of things out because I know a lot of us, we want to know, like, what was the nitty gritty? How?
Yeah. How did I get back on track?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, as you say, it was a journey, right? So the kids were really young. They still weren't sleeping. And the first thing I did was enlist with a functional medicine doctor to try and help me get on track. I'd lost a ton of weight by this point. A lot of it was like bacteria, right? All those antibiotics intravenously and things had affected my gut health. Mm-hmm. And I'd really had those kids close together because that's that was the advice from my gynecologist, because he said, the endometriosis is going to regrow. We've cut it all out, lasered it. They drilled my ovaries, burnt off all the cysts from the PCOS, drilled the ovaries to help me ovulate naturally. But I was unprepared for the kind of toll it was going to take on my body. And then I had pelvic disproportion. So it was 3 C-sections, 3 reflux babies. It was just crazy. And I felt overwhelmed. And I think the first thing I found, and in many respects, this is what got me started on the journey, but it also felt frustrating at the time, was I found the book, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I've got to do this. I've got to put some of these practices in place. But at first, it was hopeless, right? When you've got 3 young children and you try and get up at 5 a.m. and they've been keeping you up till 3, it's like never going to happen.
And they get up at 5 a.m., or 6 a.m., like whatever time it is.
Because if you've got a baby that's keeping you up in the middle of the night, then the 4-year-old's up at 5 anyway, and you're just like, oh my God, I can't sleep.
They're all on different time zones. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember falling, like getting to a traffic light and falling asleep at the steering wheel, like driving. It was just crazy. But
I feel that.
So I tried. You've done that.
No, I'm just in it right now, girl. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a long night. And so I know from a functional standpoint, kind of, and having like one of the things I always tell women is like, even 5 minutes, even 10 minutes, just your own time before you get into the rigmarole of your work or whatever it is can make such a massive difference. But in the recovery, and I totally get why you're OBGYN, did you know that pregnancy back in the day was the only recommendation for endometriosis?
Yeah, I did. What's really interesting is when I fell pregnant with my 3rd child, I had endometrial cysts coming back. They could see. Yep. And so I remember sitting there with him saying, I really want to have a 3rd child, but I can see that. And he said, you've got endometriosis, but he just had a shoulder operation. And so he was like, you need to come back in 2 months because I can't operate now. And he was like, but you know what? Pregnancy is such a great cure. Why don't you just have a go anyway? And as I was sitting there without me knowing, I was pregnant. I was pregnant.
I'm just so outraged for you right now, because that is, I mean, yes, pregnancy can support, I don't know. There's so much to unpack there, in terms of how we support women with endometriosis. That answer of like, just have a go at it, get pregnant so you could just keep this at bay. There's so many wrong.
How many times are you going to do that though?
I know. Exactly. I'm just so But lo and behold, you were pregnant with your 3rd anyway. So it just happened to be that was the case.
Happened, which did correct the endometriosis.
Yeah, at the moment. For entirely, or just for that time?
Well, no, interestingly. So it put it back. But then afterwards, I would say it's all the healthy habits since that have kept it at bay, right? So it never actually then made such a resurgence afterwards. So in between those pregnancies, it did. And that 3rd pregnancy, that moment, when my daughter was 2 and I was hospitalized and I realized I've got to get really, really healthy, is the point at which I changed my life. And since then, the endometriosis has pretty much been at bay. The PCOS has been, I don't think you can cure PCOS, right?
And you can't cure endo either.
No. I think I would say it's still a work in progress, right? As someone with PCOS, even when I hit menopause, I'm still going to have to work on managing my blood sugar. I know that, if you put a CGM on me and I have a glass of celery juice or some carrot juice, it's going to go up. Oh, I love it. You're wearing one.
Yeah, always. All the time. Because it's so important to be able to look, it's our metabolic health, which I know we're going to probably get into a little bit, is such a major indicator to all the women struggling with PCOS, endometriosis, sending you so much love, because these are particular syndromes and autoimmune conditions that we will have to live with, but we can get into remission to some level. Like I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis and it's in remission. How I've been able to maintain the remission after having a baby is, I've worked really, really hard for that. There's so much that goes into that on a day-to-day basis, including managing your blood sugar. And I do want to speak into the fact that I know that there are women out there who are like, I've been trying to manage my PCOS. I've been trying to manage my endo for so long. I know that we're going to get into some of the things that you're doing, but that, every journey is a little bit different. And that if you haven't gotten it into remission, no worries. Like, I don't want you to feel like you're failing because you haven't. Every woman's journey is a different journey. And what we're going to be talking about today is going to move us closer to getting back to that equilibrium.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think with endometriosis, it's particularly difficult because even like the medical community don't fully understand it, and whether it begins even in the womb, it's so complex, isn't
So
it? And I
complex.
think,
We
yeah,
fail
so
miserably
complex.
with endometriosis because we just
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
hard.
We don't, it's not even designated as an autoimmune condition yet because we just won't do it. And, a lot of it, almost so much of it has to do with our gut health. Like, as you mentioned, you had your gut health had been kind of obliterated a little bit, from all the antibiotics,
Had
you
been,
know.
absolutely. And in the lead up to, that's the thing, pneumonia was like the final piece. I'd had pleurisy, I'd had bronchitis, I'd had, repeated chest infections because I was burning out as a lawyer, just pushing, pushing, pushing. And I think that did make a huge difference. And I think, the crazy thing for anyone listening to this is sometimes these things just, they build slowly, as you know. And so you don't even realize what a normal period looks like until I had surgery. And I was like, what? Like, it's so clean? You mean I don't have to have like 3-inch clots that come out of me? Like, it's just clear bright red blood. Is that like normal now? So yeah, it looked so different afterwards. But the thing is, as a teenager, it was all kind of building up, growing. And had my diet been different as a child, I think there could have been a different outcome. Sure, when I look at my genetics, I'm very carb sensitive. I'm sensitive to fats as well. And my dad actually was misdiagnosed with a heart disease, a heart complaint. And so we were put on a kind of low fat diet, which means obviously naturally higher carb and higher sugar, which was just awful. He ended up type 2 diabetic, and I ended up with really bad PCOS. So yeah,
And
I
a lot
think
of this happens with young girls in puberty is really where this happens, where we misdiagnose PCOS. We completely ignore endometriosis. Oftentimes the signs are in our teens, and we're just write off girls. We completely gaslight them and tell them that what they're experiencing is completely normal. You're meant to have painful cramps. Oh, it's just puberty. It's just a hot mess anyway. And just kind of like what was happening with you, I think this is a great moment of, what we can do for our granddaughters and our daughters and our nieces, of like how we can be having these conversations so much earlier, so that it's not in their teens and their 20s that they don't know nutritionally or health wise, self-care wise, that ends up building up some of these issues that we see. So
so much so. And I think, I was prescribed the birth control pill,
yeah.
which is awful. It was like, don't worry about it until you want to have a baby. We'll just put you on the pill. And I remember when I interviewed Dr. Sari Hill on my
Oh yeah.
show, who wrote Your Brain on Birth Control, I realized then, and looking at her research, that actually that predisposed me to postnatal depression. And sure enough, I ended up with it. And I just think, yeah, if we could change the conversation and change the way it's approached with young girls, it would be such a different situation for the next generation.
Well, and here you are, right? I want to celebrate you, through your teens, being misdiagnosed, not seeing it. Your poor dad, type 2 diabetes because of a diet that we just got wrong, right? On with cardiovascular disease. And then 3 kids later, all through the endometriosis journey, and you come out on the other side. Can you share kind of, working with a functional doctor? Clearly there was a lot of things that they were doing, but what did you feel was the biggest needle mover for you besides the journal?
Besides what, the kind of the moment when I decided, like,
No,
almost the miracle morning.
the miracle morning. My
Yeah,
brain
yeah, the
just
miracle
went,
morning time.
that's me not getting sleep
That's
last night.
post baby. That's post baby brain.
I was like,
The
it's
miracle
right
morning.
there. Besides the miracle morning, which so clear for managing and helping to deregulate a deregulated stress response system, right? Setting the tone of your day, having your moment.
Definitely.
Besides that
Definitely.
piece that felt like kind of like, oh, that was mine to claim for my own sanity. What was that defining? Like was it nutrition? Was it supplementation?
I would say it was the unity of the mind, body, spirit optimization. I just don't think you can like separate them almost. So the spiritual side for me, I had like not really engaged much with that. And I think just first of all, for like very quickly, when we talk about the miracle morning, like if people are trying to put this in place with a young baby, Hal Elrod makes it really clear. And this was the perfectionism in me wanted to do the full hour. I then realized that wasn't going to happen with 3 young children. And he makes it clear, just do 6 minutes, right? 1 minute of each. And I think we have to step away from that. And as an ex-lawyer, I'm definitely a recovering perfectionist. But I would say to anyone listening, this is a big journey, right? This is over 10 years. My daughter's now 10. So it's like small steps lead to big changes over time, but be patient. Be
And
patient
that's
with
your
yourself,
youngest
please.
daughter. Your
My
youngest daughter's 10.
youngest.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. Look at
exactly.
you. Gorgeous.
So, oh, thank
How
you.
old's your oldest?
My boys are 13 and 14.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow,
They're
girl,
bigger
you were
than
knocking them
me.
out. Yeah, yeah.
I was not gonna. Going back to what I was saying, yeah. So the spiritual side, definitely, like having those moments, as you say, right? So meditation was a big piece. Really, really nourishing my body and deciding I was going to focus on nutrient dense food. Strength training was really good, like lessening off the hit, the running, everything that I had been doing as a lawyer. There's just type A personality of, got to be bigger, better, faster, stronger, and just
Efficient.
dialing things back. Yeah, efficient, exactly. Realizing that I have a menstrual cycle now, and actually it was coming back, hooray. And I could actually start to optimize around my cycle and really take account of things. And reluctantly engage in things like yoga. And I say reluctantly, not because I don't enjoy it, I do, but because I was that person that if you took me to a yoga class, I needed to go for a run afterwards,
It wasn't your
And so
biggest bang
just
for your buck. That's how you
exactly,
saw it. You're like, I'm not getting
exactly.
enough out of this.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
feel you,
That's
girl.
exactly how I saw it. So I had to kind of reassess and like come at things from a different place and be a lot more patient with myself and, nourish my gut, get it back on track. Adaptogens were a godsend, right? I remember taking Adaptoline, which is a combination of different adaptogens with B vitamins. And
Mhm.
just that thing really, really reignited my energy. But recognizing I had to rest, and you do as a baby. I remember when in the UK here we have health visitors. They come around when you have a baby,
They
and they came
do?
around to see. They do come to the
What?
house. Do you not have
Huh?
anyone in around? They come and
That's
visit you to check
amazing.
on you.
To make sure
Yeah,
you're all right. That
to
to
make
make
sure
sure.
you're okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah, for
for how long do they do that?
They do that for about 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
About
Okay.
8 weeks.
Yeah.
And they come and they sort of check on you. And I remember them saying to me, now, remember to have a nap in the day. If the baby's napping, you need to be napping. And I was like, what the hell? Don't be crazy. I've got like little ones and I'm trying to wean them and pureeing foods. But that was the downside, to be honest. That's what I had to relearn, was to give in and just accept that I couldn't be perfect all the time and that things were going to go crazy in the house. It was going to look untidy, for a bit. And I think that's why I say be kind to yourself, be patient. It's important.
Well, I want to unpack a couple things as well. Cause I think that as we're unpacking your story, there are so many women that are absolutely relating to it. And I wanted to get into the nitty gritty because I know sometimes it gets so easy to kind of get to, well, here's a solution, but like a lot of it, it's like, well, how do I even implement that? Like, how do I even do that? And so I so appreciate your vulnerability and your authenticity and willing to share, because that just gives us a little bit of a clearer picture of like, okay, that's what this looks like, because there are women who are like pureeing food as we are talking, right? Or driving their kids to whatever, or, like trying to carve out. I'm always listening to podcasts. When I listen to podcasts is when I'm walking my son, to and from the beach, or I'm unloading the dishwasher, or you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, that's
getting
exactly
where
when
I
I do
fit
it.
in.
Yeah, I do the same. But you know what I call it? Stack your hacks. I think that's actually a
I
really
love it.
positive thing, right? So if
Let's
you've
talk
got
about that.
biohacks, just put them together.
Yeah. Let's
Um,
talk about stacking your hacks a little bit.
Yeah, so I think it's accepting. It's not the same as multitasking, right? Because
Mhm.
multitasking takes your mind in different directions. You can't concentrate on any one thing. But if you're doing something that's administrative, like loading the dishwasher, pureeing food, listen to something that's going to energize your soul, nourish you inside, because it's so important. Because then you kind of are getting a break, and it doesn't feel like you're just always doing. So I very much believe in that. I think the more you can do it, having a coffee and journaling, or getting your early morning sunlight while having
Mm.
a coffee outside, getting the biggest bang for your buck in that sense, I think is a really positive thing. Doing some breath work in the sauna, or while you're walking your baby in the pram in the forest or something like that. I think the more we can take those small moments and recognize those moments, and at the end of the day celebrate them, because I still write out, every day, because I had to retrain my mind. When you've had depression a few times, those neural pathways become so ingrained. It's like a cornfield that someone's trodden down, right? It's so easy for the brain to slip into that loop again. So you've really got to let the weeds grow up over that and forge a new path. And part of that for me, gratitude was a big part of that. And celebrating small wins at the end of the day, things that I did, nice moments I had, the small pleasures in life are so meaningful at that point.
I agree. We have in the morning, we do a gratitude shower for everybody. Kingston, my little baby, can't do it
Oh, I
yet, but
love
we
that.
gratitude shower him too, always. And then
Oh,
in the end of the night, I have a crystal by my bed. It's a rounded crystal because sometimes I fall asleep literally with it on me, and the baby's in bed with me too. So it's a round, like, no sharp edges crystal.
yeah.
And I hold it and I just run through all the things that I'm grateful for in that day. And
I love
sometimes I
it.
literally fall asleep doing this, but it's just a way to bookend my day with that higher vibe energy. So
Mm.
I love that you integrated, and that gratitude was such a big part of you kind of culminating the day of like, what went
Yes.
right? Even when I had a crappy day, there were so many things that went right in the day. So I love that
And
so
there
much.
are in everyone's day,
Oh
right? So
yeah.
like now mine are older, we go around the table in the evening and we say, what are you grateful for today at
Oh,
dinner? And it's so nice. And you hear about their day. And some days they're like, oh, and there was this, and there was this, and there was this. And it's like, it's amazing. You can celebrate it together.
I
So
love that.
yeah.
Oh, I love the dinner table gratitude as well. I mean, Thanksgiving US, it's, we do it every single night, which I think is such a powerful thing, teaching children gratitude as well. And then the other thing that you were talking about was that I love the hack stacking. There's another thing that I love that I just wanted to share too. I call it pleasure stacking. And that is when I hike and then meditate and then maybe sauna or go to the beach, like doing all the things that I
Oh,
love,
I like that.
and so it's like a
Yeah.
health pleasure stack of like,
Mm.
just kind of like, that'll be like a Saturday morning or like a Sunday afternoon where it's like, just stacking up all the yummy goodies that I love to do,
Oh, I
like
love that.
in a 2 hour time or something like that. And so anyway, I just wanted to share, I love the hack stacking. And I wanted to just, the pleasure stacking is another way that we can do that. And then I want to get into, Angela Honey, your shift protocol specifically, because I know that's what we're talking about today, for optimizing for higher performance without perfection and with a lot of ease and grace, because I know that is so much about your message too.
Mm. Yeah, definitely, definitely. And the shift protocol is essentially what I developed to really like build my own recovery and help other women put in place practices to optimize their health. So I can talk you through it. The first is sleep, because I believe it's the foundation of everything. I think it's so important for your health. And it's the bit I ignored massively, right, as a lawyer, not through choice. That's how it was. We had to work all night to get deals through. And, the crazy thing is when we were practicing, sometimes we'd even write into legal agreements. And this is at a very large law firm in London. That if there were grammatical errors, they could be corrected. So everybody knew that you were never performing at your best when you were underslept. But I think the health detriments are so profound, but also I think when you really try and nail your sleep, then it makes everything else that you're going to do easier. All these other practices are easier. And what I would say to people who aren't sleeping because they've got young children like yourself is don't focus so much on the length and obsess about it. Focus on the quality that you can get. And that rest. And sometimes, when you wake up or a baby's woken you up, there's magic in those moments. I used to stay up beyond because those moments pass, and when they're gone, you can't get them back, right? They are amazing and to be enjoyed when you're nursing that baby in the night and you're just like, they're the cutest thing in the world until they scream 2 hours later again. And you're like, what?
I was definitely having
Already?
that moment last night where I was like, this is going to pass and this won't happen very long, much longer. And yeah, it was a mind game because I was so tired. It was like 4 a.m. and he was so cute, but I was like, oh, will you finish? And then I was like, this isn't going to last very much longer. So yeah, I know
Yeah,
that
it's hard,
moment.
isn't it? And you want to enjoy it. But
Yeah.
I think so looking at your sleep and doing all the right practices, like you were saying there, like gratitude before bed, bookending your day, putting blue light blockers on. I know like all the essential oils and things you use that can really help you drift off to sleep, but optimizing your sleep as much as you can. And if you can track it, like I use my Aura, probably not when you've got a young baby, because it's just going to freak you out how much
I
you're
have a Whoop
awake.
strap that
Oh,
tells
do you?
me that's like your
Oh my
sleep
God.
was 30% last night, or
Yeah. Your recovery must be like
yeah, but 25%. But
like
I
with
do
Whoop, never have a
appreciate.
glass of
Oh
wine.
my
It
gosh, no, I don't
absolutely
drink. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, but no, with Whoop, I know my husband's like, you just got to have one. I'm like, I don't need it. I don't need it to tell me that my battery life is
no,
like down under
exactly.
50%. But it is nice because those are the days where I know it is yoga. It is walking.
Yes,
It is
it's
not
good.
the Peloton with Robin Arizona. It is not, you know what I'm saying? It's not the Peloton with Hannah. You
Definitely.
know, it's a different kind of day. So I do appreciate, because so often, you know this so well too, honey, we will override what we know our body is asking. I'm just like, you know what? I ain't got time to listen to you today. Like, I gotta go and do some things. But when you see that number, when you see that battery number, it's such validation of like, oh yeah, that's exactly what my body was telling me, that it is at 30% today, not at 85, you know. And so I like the wearables. I like seeing a visual of when I check in. I'm like, oh no, yep, no, that wearable is a pretty much right. Like if I'm checking in, I'm probably running at 40% today versus there are days where I do get to run at 80% or 85%. I've never seen a 90% girl, I ain't gonna lie. And I can really dictate how I operate in my day, what I've got to give based on that score. So whether it's an Oura ring or it's a whoop strap or whatever, if you know you're running at high level and you need to kind of get a better sense of yourself, I think that those can be so helpful.
Definitely, definitely. I couldn't agree more. If you're someone like you're saying who will just push and push and push, then this is objective data that's going to say to you, it's time to slow down. And
Yeah,
sometimes you need that, right?
yeah,
I definitely do.
I do too.
Um, we're the same. So sleep is the first one, and then the next one is hormones, your favorite topic.
My favorite topic.
So all hormones, because I think we are all hormones, right? Hormones and neurotransmitters, I would say. So if you can master both of those, and that's everything. And sleep is also going to make that a lot easier. And I mean everything: sex hormones, you know, neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. And it's kind of a bit in depth to get all into this, and thyroid health and all of those things. But I think the next pillar is master your hormones, particularly as a woman, and start understanding that you do have this menstrual cycle. You know, also just postnatally, prenatally, during pregnancy, there's different things and your body's changing. And I feel like as women, it's this crazy journey, isn't it? Like you go through puberty, then you get into your 20s and you think it might be plain sailing for a bit, and less likely you get diagnosed with something like PCOS and endometriosis, or you get fibroids and all these things. And then you're kind of like prenatal, then you're in pregnancy, then you're postnatal. Then if you're crazy, you do it again and again and maybe again, like some women will do multiple times. And you just kind of come out of those kids, and then it's like, hey, you're perimenopausal. And it's like, what?
What just happened?
When does it all
me?
slow down? Exactly. So it's kind of like a roller coaster for 20 years. So I think you have to pay attention to your hormones. So, and I know you have tons of episodes on that. And then the next one is insights, like the Aura, the Whoop, but it's kind of tracking. So like lab work, at-home wearables, blood sugar monitors, you know, things like the Lumen device, basically using what you can to really understand your metabolism and develop metabolic flexibility. I think that's so, so key for longevity, for your energy, for your health, for everything, and for your productivity. And then fuel is the F, and I break it down into, I use the acronym FLOW, because I think it's not just about how we fuel our body with food, but it's food, light, oxygen, and water. So understanding like light is bioactive in humans. So we need to get outside, just like we take our babies in our prams for a walk. We want to get outside. Sunrise and sunset, perfect time. You know, in the winter, I use things, and I mean, I use them all year round, but things like infrared sauna, red light therapy devices, there are biohacks for everything, but there's no substitute for being outside if you can.
Mhm.
And obviously getting, you know, like some UV light for vitamin D and things. And then just breath work. That was the thing that really helped me. You know, when we were talking earlier about what were the key things that really helped me get back on track, actually just learning to breathe has been transformational. Because again, that's another kind of type A thing, isn't it? We're like shoulders up here, go, 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 shallow breathing, and just understanding that we want that ideal exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide into our tissues. It's not just our blood oxygen levels. And then hydration, like hydrating like properly with water, with minerals, but also hydrating foods, you know, all those lovely foods, like when you put chia seeds and you soak them, they create easy water. That's like charged water for your cells, cucumbers, watermelon, things like that. And then the last one is the T, and that's train your body and mind, because obviously the mind was the bit that I had really neglected and I think is so key. So it's like physical training and really minimum effective dose, I think, is where I go with it. I personally like to exercise in some form or another every single day, just because it helps my mind become aligned. I find it's the best way to keep on top of mood for me. But I think understanding that you can't just exercise with the same intensity every day. So that's really kind of the shift in a nutshell.
I love it. And I love that you were able to get through those so efficiently. I'm so
You can
impressed.
tell I've done it before.
Yes, yes, I can tell. Um, I love it. I totally 100% agree with all of it. And I'd love to spend a little bit, and I love the fuel part, the food, the light therapy, the breath work, the hydration, especially because breath work helps to improve vagal tone, which is so important. If we're looking at, a constant overactivation of the stress response system, that's going to be a game change for so many of us. And then I'd love to go into T a little bit more, training your body and mind for optimization. And so I know train in terms of movement, moving your body, and really kind of determining what that may be depending on the day, like you said, whether it's yoga, whether it is walking or hiking or dancing, or it's actually weight training. You and I talking about wearables, talking about metabolic flexibility and muscle mass, and as women get older, the big concern. So I'm a big fan of weight training for women in particular. And I know, there's a time and place. Like today I weight trained for 15 minutes because I knew I was running low on the battery today. So I was like, let me just get 15 minutes in. And that was the thing I chose to do. But let's talk a little bit about training your mind. If there's anything you want to add about training your body too, I'd so love to hear that.
Yeah, on training your body, I agree with you. I think strength training is so important. Like you've got to keep that muscle mass. And I think a lot of times when people say, oh, this is a really common one I see, I don't know about you, is women will say, I can't lose the belly fat. I just can't shift it no matter what I do. I keep going out for like runs and I keep jumping on the Peloton and the belly fat won't go. And it's because really you're using cardio as a trigger. And I think if people could understand that we need to create more stimulus, right? So too often, because we want that effectively that runner's high, we're acting in that way, that kind of zone 3, upper end of zone 3, if we're looking at heart rate, into a little bit of zone 4 training. And it's almost like black hole training because it's not enough stimulus to get a really good result, but it's not enough to say be just burning fat and in a parasympathetic state. And so I really like to encourage people to think about how can I go out for hikes and walks and listen to podcasts and really connect with nature and enjoy it, and then how can I push myself hard? So how can I strength train and create a really strong stimulus? How can I do high intensity or super maximal training, but in a very short space of time, so we're not raising cortisol and overstressing the body, and then refueling. I think what I see so commonly with women, particularly with type A women like ourselves, is that they want to fast for like 18 hours a day. They want to do HIIT classes, jump in a cold shower or a cold bath. And there's just too many stressors for our female physiology. And we're not men. And a lot of these studies have been done on sedentary, overweight men. And so just understanding those biological differences, I think is really important. And that, as you know, becomes even more important in perimenopause and menopause, because when we start to lose estrogen, which actually triggers muscle protein synthesis a bit more, we don't have that stimulus. And so we need to lift heavy, and you're not going to get big. I promise you're not going to get big.
No, you're not.
We're not built that way.
No, we're not. And you're right. Absolutely. That much hormetic stress, especially if you're still cycling or in perimenopause, can really, again, it's just too much stress on the system. And so I agree with you 100%. If we're going to be, like I said, like for me, no more, I can't do any more than 30 minutes. I know my body, I know what I'm capable of. So the max I'll do is 30 minutes of strength training and with heavy weights. But I also know, and I also do it in the morning, because I'll tell you what, anything after 3 p.m.,
that's the same as me. That's the same. It's not going to happen. That's the thing. I don't care what the circadian clock says that, your best time is meant to be between 3 and 5. It's like, it's never going to happen because I've lost the mood, the desire, everything, because I'm such an early morning person.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm the same. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing I look a lot with is like genetics. And I think if people can understand, like the 5 a.m. club may not be for you if you're not an early morning lark. But then if you are a really early morning type, then embrace it, right? Because you're productive, you're energized, you can get going, you can get loads of stuff done before the world is up and actually have peace and enjoy that morning. So I'd say really I think bio-individuality is the biggest thing. My message really is take these general principles, but then adapt them to you and the way your body works.
Absolutely. And really spend the time to learn how your body is operating. And if you're struggling with that, that's what I love about some of the wearables out there, is it'll give you cues as to what you may have been ignoring for decades. You just weren't listening at all. For the sake of, I'm the common denominator, I've got all the obligations, I'm the one handling all the business. But at the end of the day, like, we've just got to know our bodies. And so I know my body very, very, very well. Wearables definitely help as well, but there's just non-negotiables. that things that I cannot do. And I just know that at this point, it's not going to serve me as much as it may be efficient. I can get more things done. It just, at the end, it's just not going to serve. And so I think the more that we can understand and be attuned to our body, the better. Probably one of the things I struggle the most with is really knowing what, and I love that I know this, but knowing what foods light me up, that spike my blood sugar, that I still love. Health, like what could be considered healthy foods, like sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are like, ooh, I might as well just drink a milkshake. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it might as well be a milkshake.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so those are the things where I'm like, oh,
it's like bananas make your blood sugar go bananas, right?
Yeah, exactly. I wish I wouldn't have known. Part of me wishes I didn't know. But it's again, these are the things that I think are so important. Like the more that you know about your body, the more that you can really, really tailor and curate something that's going to work best for you.
Definitely. And also on the blood sugar as well, understanding the impact that stress has is such a massive driver of high blood sugar. And you can really turn that around very quickly. I've tested it, with like a CGM on and done a gratitude practice like we were talking about, or a short meditation. And my fasting glucose, say you've been up all night, with the kids, you've been disturbed and you haven't slept well, your blood sugar's higher. And then you do some of those practices and actually it comes back down again. Like it's so important. It's that whole mind-body connection like we were saying.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. And you think about, we know that cortisol is going up during the morning too, with the cortisol awakening response. However, you haven't had sleep, it's already going to be at a higher level, most likely. And, you run into your day, it's just going to stay elevated. It's going to drive insulin resistance. And so if you can have those practices in the morning, although again, you're naturally elevated with cortisol, but you can really simmer down that excess cortisol output by having those practices. And you will see it on the CGM, because you will see it has an impact on insulin. It has an impact on blood sugar. Like that's real-time data that you can take to the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so powerful to do it. Which one are you using? Is it Levels or
I'm using Levels, yeah, right
Levels,
now.
Yeah. Cool.
What I would love, before we get into the gift that you have for us, I have a couple of quick fire questions. Are you down?
Okay, I'm down.
Okay. I don't do them with every guest, but I just feel so called to do these with you today.
Did you want to do the mind piece quickly, or do you want to leave it?
Yes, I do want to do the mind.
I know you wanted to do the mind.
I do.
Should we do that quickly?
Yes.
Because I think that was the biggest part for me. So I just want, for anyone that's listening and thinking, well, how's she done all this? How'd you get over depression? If you're thinking I'm being prescribed medication, maybe you didn't want to take it. I was there. So I was on really strong bipolar medication, taking like a combination of antidepressants and antipsychotics. I was told I would be on it for life and never come off. And I'm not advocating anyone to do that necessarily. What I'm saying is when you start to really embrace the things we're talking about, like gratitude, journaling, meditation, yoga, and connect with you inside you and start to show more self-love and compassion, you can find a way through. You can find a way through. And I think just be really patient with yourself if you're experiencing that. Because I just know so many women struggle with depression, whether it's postnatal or otherwise. And I think that was the hardest thing for me, because I had this secret battle that I couldn't tell anyone. I just didn't want anyone to know. People I used to ignore people on the school run because I thought if I say hello, I'm just going to burst into tears. And they would think I was rude, but it was that I just didn't actually feel that I could engage with anyone. I remember a therapist saying to me, you just need to do less. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute. I've gone from running multi-billion-dollar deals to just getting my kids to school, and you're telling me I need to do less. I felt like a shadow of my former self. And I had to start from ground zero and build back up. And so what I say is anyone who's struggling with the mind piece, just know that there is help out there. And if you can get it and really, really focus and be compassionate and develop that self-love, that is going to help you through. And just be patient.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for reminding me, because I completely forgot. We were talking about that. I will be straight up honest with you. It's powerful because so many of us are, honestly, and if we look at it all, in all the conversation that we're having today, Angela, honey, it's all the mind piece. It's your mind. It's your mind that, one of my favorite affirmations that I've been saying recently is nothing is wrong. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is wrong. Because so much is not wrong. But man, girl, I could go into, oh my God, well, but my tea isn't hot enough. Oh, but oh, that puree isn't just right. Or you know what I'm saying? Like you could just start to like tizzy yourself into everything is wrong. Oh, it's just a little cold outside. I should have brought my sweater. Like all of a sudden you can take yourself out of that perfectly happy spot with, oh, but if something could just shift here, then you're back in that place of something's wrong.
It's so easy, right? Because we're wired for negativity.
We're so wired for it.
So wired.
Your brain is
what I
looking
love
for
is
it.
I heard that someone say, like, if you change that I've got to, how you can go, oh my God, I've got to go and get the kids food. I've got to go and visit my in-laws. Or I've got to do this. I've got to go to that spin class. If you change it to I get to, it's so different, right? It just changes it, doesn't it? I get to work out. Like, because I'm healthy, I get to work out. This is amazing.
I have legs. I have arms.
Exactly.
My body moves. It's working for me. This chair is here. It's allowing me to sit. You know what I'm saying? And so, it's just a reframe, but it is like you talked about the cornfields, having to let it grow out and replow new neural pathways. But when we look at all of it, we are our hormones, as you mentioned earlier, but really what's driving so much of that are what's going on in our mind, what's going on in our brain, and how we operate in the world. And then what are those core beliefs that are driving those operations?
Exactly.
At the end of the day. And so, and I just love that the call out, the shout out of anyone who's struggling with the constant worry, the constant mental chatter, the constant mood swings, the anxiety, the fear, whatever that is, it's a lot of work to move out of it, but it's possible, and it's daily practice. It's daily practice.
Yeah, it's daily practices. And understand that when things go on in your life, they might derail you for a little bit, and that's okay, but go back to your practices, because if you can develop a set of practices, that's what's allowed me to sort of stay through it, if you like. So I think but I'm ready for your quick fires. You made me a little nervous now.
Okay, first one. It's just 5. First one, what is the one thing you are deeply grateful for right now?
My family.
Oh,
my family. Yeah.
So much. What was something you've done that made you extremely happy in the last week?
Going for a walk with my dogs in the morning.
Oh, love it, love it, love it. What's one thing about you that surprises people?
I don't know, actually. That's a really good question. What does surprise people? Oh, I know what it is. This will be funny. Most people, this is a crazy one, is they're surprised when they hear, this is in England, only the people in England are going to listen to this, is I come from a place in England called Essex, where they usually have really strong accents, and people say to me, I really didn't hear that. I didn't know you were from there. And I'm like, yeah, Essex girl through and through. So
I love
that would
that.
be it.
Yes. Okay, so what book or film has recently had a big impact on you, and why?
Manifesting by Roxy Nafuso. I love it. I think it's a really modern guide where it just puts things like the 4 Agreements, Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and Think and Grow Rich, and all these books, and just pulls the threads together.
Nice.
Great book.
Wonderful. Yeah, really I'm going to go check it out. Knowing I'm going to get it on Audible. I've read all of those books. I'd love to see the common thread for sure. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
To follow your dreams, right? So I think part of me becoming a lawyer was because I felt that was the thing I should have done. And I wish that I had thought about medicine, and it was kind of law or medicine. And I think there was an inner thing in me to help and to serve people. And that's part of my frustration when I was a lawyer and ended up with depression. I wish I'd followed my heart to serve in the first place. And so, just follow your dreams, because you'll be successful at whatever you do if you love it.
I love that so much. Angela, honey, it's been such a pleasure. And I know you've got an incredible female biohacker collective membership where we get like the nitty gritty of all of the shift protocol. Tell me a little bit about this.
Yes, so this is actually a new membership that I'm launching, because people are asking, how can we kind of get access to masterclasses on a regular basis? When they've done my programs, they're like, what do I do now? And so, yes, the Female Biohacker Collective is your kind of one place to come with a biohacking book club. It's got masterclasses, Q&As with me, and live access and challenges every single month, where you can kind of optimize your health with fellow biohackers. So really nice group of women.
Love it. Love it. Well, I just want to say it's been such a pleasure. I'm so glad you allowed me to just get really into the nitty-gritty with you today. I know you had just in your own journey so many treasures of how you've overcome some just really big adversities. So I just want to say thank you for your brilliance.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.